Hey everybody, we're going to start lab 3, which is testing for amounts of vitamin C in liquids. We're going to use this vitamin C ascorbic powder, which I've made into a 0.1% solution. And then I've got this test tube marked with an A for ascorbic acid. So we're going to use that one. And just like we did in the other lab when we made a standard to see what the test looked like with a known substance, we're going to be doing the same with this in the A. And then we're going to test our juices. So we have, we're going to be using starch solution, and just got to make sure we keep track, and a tincture of iodine for our reagents. Now that we're going to be testing orange juice, which is not Meyer, it's actually Old Orchard, which I put in there. We're going to taste some white grape juice, some homemade apple cider, and I'm not going to shake it to keep that mother down at the bottom, and then some 100% pineapple juice. I've already marked our other vials to orange, grape, cider, and pineapple. We always want to make sure we know which one we're working with. Okay, as I get this going, and I get myself straight, because this is my first time doing it too, what we're going to do is take 3 mils of, well, this would be juice, but in this case we're using the ascorbic acid for it. So 3 mils, which is 1 full pipette. And this should all be in the lab sheet that, then I'm going to wash all these in between. We'll be in the procedure, and we're doing the B, so that 8 steps, A, B, C, D, E. And then we're going to use the exact same steps for every test. So we have 3 mils of juice, or in this case, the vitamin C solution. We're going to do 3 mils of a starch solution, which is the starch and water. And if you look up where I'm talking about titration in the paragraphs above the lab sheet, this is explaining, so that's where the water is coming from. We're not actually adding water. The water is already in the starch solution. So now we're going to add our iodine drops. Okay, I had to go get some different droppers. So what we're going to do, so at this point you need to count. So make sure you are counting. I'm going to go in. 2, 3. You have to count here. That makes it a little bit easier to see. So if you can see how it's turning color, but then as soon as I shake it, the color starts to go away. So what that's doing is it's doing that oxidation process that I described in the introduction. So at the top of the tube, I'll let you guys count. The top of the tube is going to be where it's all concentrated at, and then as soon as we mix it throughout, then the iodine is being used up. So let's keep counting. Okay, that's getting pretty dark. I'm gonna get it all mixed up, and there it goes. This might make a good magic trick for a show for some little kids. Fun science. Ooh. Let's see if that color goes away. So that last where I added about 4 drops, I probably should have done 1 drop at a time and then shook it and seen if it stayed that color. So the color is not going away. It is pretty pale right here. Oh, and there it went away. So you'll see in the, as we finish these up, I'll put a timer on for 20-30 seconds to make sure that it actually stays away. There's all kinds of things going in my house right now. That's why I keep looking away. Alina's doing sewing class. Luke's watching the show. The dogs are barking. So it looks like the color is not going away, as you can see. So we're just going to make sure. We're actually going to let this sit for more than 30 seconds since I started the timer late. Don't worry, I have a case on there. I drop that thing all the time. All right, so now we're hitting 30 seconds. It's not changing color. The color's not disappearing. It's not going back to clear. So that one is done. So if you need to go back through, if you weren't actually keeping count on that white stuff on the bottom, that's just going to be some of the solid starch. This was a solution that we did in class, so I probably could have, we might get more accurate results if we were actually counting how much vitamin C was in here, if I had done a new solution with warm water. But for our purposes, since we're just comparing and we're using the same solution, it will all be fine. And then I'm just stirring that solid up just to make sure it's not going to make a difference. And it's still maintaining color. So if you need to stop this and go back and count how many drops we actually put in there, then go ahead and do that and then write that down. So our first substance is going to be the 0.1% ascorbic acid. Then you're going to put in the number of drops of iodine to produce color. And then the rank is going to be at the end, so don't fill out the right-hand column on your paper yet. Okay, this is the part I just sped up. So I'm putting 3 mils of each juice, so make sure you have those marked down on your paper for the substance tested. So there's the orange juice, there's the white grape juice, there's apple cider, and that's real apple cider, and the pineapple juice. So make sure you have those marked so we can add the number of drops per one. And if you wanted to look these up and compare based on what we get to the nutritional effects, I think that might be fun too. Okay. So now we have all of our juices in. We have got our iodine ready. We've got, now we're going to take our starch. So again, the 3 mils of starch solution. And then we're going to start testing these one by one. So I'm going to put in the starch. And I got a piece of white paper here so it was easier to see. Now we're going to start putting in our tincture. So make sure you are counting the drops. See, it's easier to see here. So one. And then we're going to swirl this again and get it all mixed. See, there's some at the bottom. We want to get all of that mixed. And it's staying kind of dark. I started with, you can double check, but I think that was 4. We might have already passed it. So it might actually be less than that, but let's see. Just like our other one, we're gonna make sure that we have the full 30 seconds, well, 20 to 30 seconds of swirling and it not changing color. We've already got, that is pretty dark. I think I might have put in too much. We'll see. Yep, we're already way past 20 seconds, so we are good. So that is going to be our time. And that is our orange juice. Okay, so now we're going to go on to our grape juice and do the same thing. We are going to add the starch and then count iodine drops. My paper does not want to stay up on me. Okay, so G for grape. I'm going to try not to cover up this tube so you can see everything that's going in there. You guys ready to count? Here we go. There's one. There goes my paper. Not cooperative. So in between each swirl. Ooh. Let's see. Oh, there's still some bottom. Let's get that mixed in there. Okay. So I'm not sure what size screen you're watching this on, but if you can zoom in, you can see all the swirls. I'm going to go slower on these ones. Make sure it's mixing all through. So while I'm adding drops, so this is the, like I said before, this is the titration. So this is just a test, ready to count. Like I said, this is it's a chemistry experiment, but what happens is that the iodine mixes with the vitamin C and our ascorbic acid. All right, I'm going to start the counter now. Looks pretty dark. It mixes with the vitamin C and the water that's in our starch and our vitamin C solution, and then to make another chemical, but that chemical doesn't change color. So then when all the vitamin C is up, the only thing left is some more water and our starch. So then we add our iodine. The iodine is going to dye the starch, and then it remains the color because it's not going to change. All right, so we have over 30 seconds. That's not changing. So that's our G. So that's our grape juice. Make sure you write down the number of drops. Again, the advantage of video is that if you miss some or you want to double check your number, you can always stop it, rewind, and watch it again. And it's starting to get a little more sediment, so I'm going to shake it. And we're going to go to our next one, which is, I don't even have a tube in my hand yet. All right, so our next one should be the cider. There's so many air bubbles in these pipettes. So I want to make sure I have that 3 mils. Sometimes science takes time. All right, so here we have our cider, our 3 mils of cider, and I'm adding 3 mils of the starch. Swirl it up, and then we're going to start counting the drops. That paper is a rascal. All right, count the drops. That's pretty dark, just with that. That might only be 1 drop. I was surprised, can you tell? Let's find out. If it goes back to color, then we'll add another drop and start the timer again. That is pretty dark. This might be it. I know it looks like I'm jamming to music, but I don't have any music going on. All right, that is not changing color, so that is our test. So 1. All right, cider. So our last one is our pineapple. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add our 3 ml of starch. And start counting our iodine drops. So pay attention and count the drops. Here we go. Okay, those first few were pretty clear and were titrated pretty quickly, so I added more than one, but starting to get a little bit darker, but we really want that dark, full color that doesn't go away once we shake it. That piece of paper. Okay. Color's still going away. Whoops. Made it run down the side there. And doesn't look like it's going away. So we'll start our timer and we'll keep shaking, and as long as the color doesn't go away and stays, then that will be our test. Okay, spoiler alert, it doesn't change. It keeps the color. So go ahead and write that number while we watch this, write the number of drops down, and then you're gonna rank the amount of drops that we put in from most to least. Just 1 through 5 is fine. And then, so is it the least amount of drops is the most vitamin C, or the most amount of drops is the most vitamin C? And that's gonna be based off that chemistry, titration, and how we figured this out. So rank those, and if you're looking to get vitamin C in your diet, now you have an idea of what are the best juices. So you can see the different colors, and that comes partly from the base color and partly from how much we put in there before the color stayed. Also our one to the far, your far right as you're looking at it, was the first one you did, and if you can see, it's a little bit darker on the bottom, so it's just settled a little bit since we started it, and that's why it's a little bit lighter color too. So that's the end of part 3 for your lab 10.